Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new type of lifetime value called bonus content. In this version of the podcast, I bring two people who are extremely passionate about their work, and we have a conversation about one topic in their industry. Today, I'm extremely excited to have Sabrina and Nick, who are two of the most fascinating people I've met since my college days. They've always surprised me with their entrepreneurial spirit and have an extremely high EQ. Most recently, both of them have ventured into the mental health industry, an area that I personally feel is constantly underlooked in the modern workplace. Sabrina is the co-founder of Calm Collective Asia, a grassroots community for sharing mental well-being strategies in the Asian context. And Nick, on the other hand, is the founder of Ekho Academy, focused on a simple vision where everyone mentally healthy and strong. So today, as part of the first episode of the bonus content, we wanted to talk about the one big topic, which is the importance of mental health and how it relates to the modern workplace. So without further ado, please help me welcome Nick and Sabrina.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey guys, thank you so much for making time. And just for our listeners, both Sabrina and Nicholas are based in Singapore. So this is early morning for them. And I really appreciate you guys taking time out to do this.
All good.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure is all mine, and why don't you guys start things off with a quick introduction of yourselves and we can take it from there.
Yeah, I guess I could go first. I don't know. I feel like you gave us a really good introduction already, so there's not much to add there. But I mean, I would just say that what really made me venture into this space was really just my personal experience with mental health issues. For going through it for slightly over a decade. So, I guess that experience, as much as I'm trying to move beyond it, it's also nice to have the opportunity to give people a little bit more perspective of what it's like to experience it and, why it's important for them to take care of their own mental health.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I guess for me, it's pretty similar to Nick, right? In the sense that my why stems from my own personal journey with mental health. So I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I've lived with it and I've learned how to live well with it. So I really wanted to start Calm Collective as a platform to share strategies I've learned to help manage my own mental health and hopefully help people in the process.
Amazing. That is so refreshing to hear, where you've used your adversity to turn it into opportunity. And I'm extremely excited to have this conversation with you guys. So maybe, we can start off with like the first kind of discussion point, which is within the modern workplace, how do you think the landscape has changed with regards to mental health in the past, like 5 to 10 years? And one sort of thing I wanted to also know is, a lot of companies say they promote mental health and whatever, but a lot of time it can just be that PR thing, that sort of superficial thing. How do you think they can actually change and put their money where their mouth is?
Wow. Okay, that's two big questions. So I'll talk about the whole landscape part from my point of view. So we're in Singapore, right? And I think compared to say 10 years ago, mental health is definitely a lot more top of mind and talked about today.
Okay.
So it's really good actually. There's been good progress. I feel a lot more comfortable talking and sharing, and I see people as well being more open about sharing and reaching out for help. So it's changed for the better, but the stigma really does still exist. Especially in the cultural context of Asia, right? Where there are some, I guess, just cultural norms which are not conducive for mental health. So, for example, in Asia, we care a lot about face, right? It's really important. We don't want to show any weakness, but then when you want to take care or when you want to address your mental health issues, you have to be vulnerable and you have to be able to accept your vulnerability. So I think it is difficult in our context. Yeah. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I definitely echo what you said. And I think that the change that happened in the past 5 to 10 years, if we think about it from a recent perspective, the change really stems from grassroots levels, right? I mean, and I maybe I'm biased here from my personal experience as well, but I don't think the change really came from management. It's just that more people really felt comfortable enough, especially the generation that we're in, to really speak about it. And as more people speak, the courage kind of manifests in other people as well. And then because the grassroots became so strong, management within companies had to really take a big stand on it, and to really see, hey, this is something people care about. How can we support? At the end of the day, regardless of how it came about, as long as there's progress, hey, what does it matter, right? So I'm happy to see those changes. But yeah, I mean, those stigmas still will still take place unless, you actually put regulations or laws that affect those changes, because otherwise, companies are free to discriminate and you can't really do anything about it.
That law thing, right? So it's only in the past year, Nick, that employers don't have to ask their potential employees about any mental health or mental illness.
That's right.
You don't have to declare it anymore. Yeah, so that's a big change for us. And then recently, there's been like some advisory about. Government advisory to companies to, I guess, support their employees' mental health better. So I don't know whether it's, especially given this year of like COVID, right? Obviously, mental health is like at the forefront. Has it become like, it's just kind of made its way to the company's checklist of like things we need to do. But in terms of actually rolling it out in an empathetic way, that's the part where I'm still not very confident about. Okay. I'm not sure whether it's being rolled out in a way that resonates with people, that really helps people. I'm not sure.
That's a very interesting point as well. And I wanted to sort of allude to what you guys are doing with, Calm Collective and Ekho Academy. What are some things that you guys are doing that perhaps you think can be internalized in a company? I mean, hiring like a special person in the HR department, something that differentiates the modern workplace from what you guys might be doing within your own companies as well. I mean, both of you guys are founders. So, that's another interesting aspect that perhaps you can share with us.
Well, I mean, for Calm Collective, we host virtual talks on mental health. And the way we do this is by hosting very real, authentic, and open conversations about both the ups and downs of life, right? So I think a lot of people right now are looking for authenticity in the conversations. Oftentimes we see a lot of panels online or initiatives that seem very top down. It's like, we just need to tell you about this thing. Let's, bring on a presentation and tell you exactly what is mental health, right? But I think the most effective way is to have these open conversations, bring in the audience, bring in your employees to be part of that conversation, and hopefully turn that into, or like find ways to get them to champion the cause within their own teams as well. That's one way. Yeah.
And Nick, I'm one of the founding members, or one of the first few members that have applied to Ekho Academy, and you're doing a lot of things. I wanted to get your 2 cents as well as to how do you think Ekho Academy has evolved, and how do you think you're going to be adding value?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I always have this internal debate because, at the end of the day, I always wonder how much change should I be enforcing on the world, right? Because at the end of the day, everyone goes through a certain process. And, I always reflect and think, hey, do I wish I went through all those years of suffering? Probably not. But do I regret it? I don't think so either, because, I've learned and grown. So I think when I started Ekho Academy, it started, and it still is, based on that foundation that everyone has their own journey, and the goal shouldn't be to the goal for me at least shouldn't be to say like, this is what you can do to eliminate mental health or whatever struggles you're going through, but more to empower someone to feel that regardless of what it is, that there's strength in your experience and there's strength in your ability to overcome it. And what you gain from that is, it's a lot more powerful. that's really the whole premise of Ekho Academy. So even though it's grounded on, mental health, it's not really, I wouldn't say it's really mental health from a medical perspective, because hey, what do I know about it? So I try to stay clear of it. I think it's more from the point of, hey, how can we coach you to feel more confident and comfortable in your decision and your ability to get through the challenges you face in life.
That was very well said. Nicely done. On my side, I have perhaps just begun that journey, and Nick, you've been very helpful, and I kind of feel just using day to day, the Calm app before sleeping. My partner has also turned me on to that particular meditation, just taking a break, especially now that I'm home officing the whole day. You don't know when to switch off, or even when you do switch off, it's like you can switch back on immediately since you don't have to go to a physical location, etc. It brings me to like the next sort of question or point I wanted to talk to you guys about. For a day-to-day sort of thing, what are some good ideas or tips or tricks even that would be good for an average person to practice on a daily basis? Like, if let's say you were my physical trainer, you'll be like, okay, you need to run 2 kilometers every week. You need to do these push-ups, lift weights, whatever. If you had to prescribe like a very sort of generic way for people to kind of stay in touch and be able to be in charge of their mental well-being, what would be a good sort of starting point?
Well, I can go first.
Okay.
One, for me, I think the easiest thing that, or one of the easiest things that people can do would be to practice gratitude. So yeah, just like asking yourself, like, what am I grateful for? Maybe listing 3 to 5 different things that you're grateful for. It can be anything from like, oh, I love the smell of rain. I love what I just ate. I'm so happy I met this friend, right? To, bigger accomplishments as well. I think that helps with like reframing your thoughts, because oftentimes we're very bogged down by like all the shit that's happened, right? So I think that at least for me, it's something that helps ground me and helps me feel better at the end of the day.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
I like gratitude and perspective. It really helped me, especially recently, because at the end of the day, I mean, especially with COVID, right? You start to realize, add to that point, a little experience I had, because someone came up to me and said, like sometimes I think to myself, 2020. I feel like I didn't accomplish anything, but when he said that, I don't know why I thought of it at that moment, but it almost felt like a defense mechanism. But I said, I don't think that's true. I think maybe you didn't accomplish the things you wanted to, but that doesn't mean you didn't accomplish anything. I think that's where gratitude comes into play, right? Just to really appreciate that, not everything you want will happen.
Yeah.
But things do happen anyway, and what do you get from that? But I think in life, in general, before we can start practicing like the gratitudes, the journaling, the meditation, and all of that, I think it's also just important to just ask yourself some questions that can at least clarify what is the goal of using these tools, right? Just ask like, what are you trying to accomplish when it comes to your mental health, because at the end of the day, some of us are very type A, right? And, we are not going to stop our relentless pursuit of things. So if that's the case, then our version of protecting our mental health is just to really like to incorporate mental health within our day. But for some other people, it's just to find more time to relax. So it's really just understanding what's important to you and then having the discipline to stick to it, which is the hardest part, I think.
That's so true. And like you were talking about sort of taking a step back and looking at the root causes, etc., as well. And you guys have experienced and probably helped a lot of people. In your opinion, what are some of the usual suspects or the usual causes that people normally complain about? At the top of my head, I can think of, work, relationships, first few, and then there's also addictions that come into play. I just wanted to get like some sort of consensus or something that has personally that you've come across that you're like, hey, if we can find a way to perhaps explore these 3-4 topics, if somebody listening maybe like, hey, I actually feel the same thing. Oh, okay. I think it might be time for me to kind of look into this or reevaluate, etc. I don't know. What do you think are some of the common causes that you felt?
I would say there's a lot. I mean, like it depends on the individual's experience, but commonly what I guess I've seen and experienced as well is usually with your relationships and I guess work. Those are like very big triggers usually. Relationships would be a big one, whether it's like your partner or with your family. It depends. For me, I would say it depends.
I definitely agree with Sab. Like at the end of the day, it's very unique, and there are common trends, right? Your work, your relationships, and all of that. But maybe if we just take it one step before that, I don't know whether it's physics or some other science, but it's basically the cause and effect, right? So it's understanding what causes your mental health to suffer. And then also the effect of that cause and the effect that cause has on you. And this is just my, for lack of a better word, fancy way of saying whatever you're going through is legitimate, regardless of what other people say, because whatever cause that occurs in our lives will be met with different effects for different people. And therefore we cannot discount anyone's suffering, so to speak. And so therefore it's very important for us to not be worried about what are the similar causes, but more importantly ask ourselves what really affects our mental health, and not be too worried about whether it's legitimate or not, and then from there we can kind of understand, hey, how is it affecting me and what can I do about it?
Yeah, it's not just about the cost. Sorry, just like something that I thought about recently was the same event can be experienced completely differently by different people, by two different people, right?
Yes.
So I think it's about being able to have a more healthy relationship with stress, and I think building up those like support systems when those stressors come up as well.
Absolutely.
And then, personally speaking, a lot of times when I'm facing stress, and maybe it's the sort of type of person that I am, I kind of like to talk about it with my partner. I'm like, I hated this today. And just by having that conversation, and, I don't need an opinion. I just need somebody to listen, whatever. That helps me a lot to sort of de-stress. Sometimes it's going to the gym, physical fitness. What do you guys normally do to kind of have like your own personal,
so many things.
you mean what we're supposed to do or what we normally do? Two different things.
That's very true. Well,
it's a long list of things.
Yeah, but what do you personally do? That's a good start, and then maybe you could talk us through what you're supposed to be doing too.
Oh man, Nick, do you wanna go first?
Can. So maybe. I feel like I really want to share this because I had way back when I had interview with a guest on my podcast. Dr. Kwan came and he is a neuroscientist, and he explained stress in a very I suppose in a way that's just easy for us to absorb, right? And he cited a study of one of some academic on baboons, and basically baboons and humans have pretty similar responses. And so what happened is, those baboons who have high stress levels are exactly similar to humans, and those who have low stress levels likewise have very similar responses to humans. And what he found was that for someone to be less stressed, there only three things really come into play. Okay. The first is you have to find a way to be less type A, So type A in the sense that the things you can control, and and he makes a very specific caveat. He says like, you're not sacrificing your ambition, but you're sacrificing your judgment of your ability to get to that vision or ambition. So that is the definition of type A you need to reduce, because that is the one that affects your mental health, your physical health, etc. The second thing which I found really interesting, because that's the part that is very important to me, is your physical connections. And Rithik, I mean, that's alluding to you speaking to your partner, right? He says just that simple dynamic helps you spread the load out. And because of that, you appreciate that, number one, your problems, even though it's unique to you, is not entirely unique. Everyone can appreciate and empathize with it. So social connections are very important. And even if it's just one, it makes a whole lot of difference. So I think, Ritik, you're halfway there, to have a partner. and the third and final one is just awareness, right? Awareness of what is real and what is imagined. Because the moment you understand what is imagined, you've already half the battle is won, because you realize, okay, I know this is not actually a big problem. Now I just need to be able to have enough, to have the ability and courage to say, okay, then it's time to sweep it aside. So I'm not very, and the reason why I bring that up is because I'm not very good at the, hey, I need to exercise consistently, and hey, I need to meditate. I do that every now and then, I'm not very disciplined in it. So I try to focus on the other things, the things that can really make a big impact. I feel it in my body, and that's, my physical interaction, whether it's with my wife, just talking to her makes a whole lot of difference. Or just the simple fact of just being comfortable in the things that I cannot control and just letting it go. I've become a lot better in the past few years. So yeah, I mean, the things you can do, of course, is your usual, your meditation, your exercise and stuff like that. But I encourage you to think about those three things that I mentioned earlier, because I feel like that might be a bit easier.
Yeah, wow. I mean, yeah, those are actually really good points. So it's like, yeah, I mean, for me, I kind of like see that as like letting go of expectations, letting go of judgment, right? And then I guess trying to figure out how to manage from there, how to reach out for help from, the people that care about you, that you care about, right? And then like, I guess there's one more thing I can add here. I go for regular therapy. So that helps me a lot. It helps me so much in grounding myself. I do this like monthly. I have my partner, I have my friends, I talk to them, but I don't always listen to them. So I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, good point, but and I think oftentimes your friends and like partner, whatnot, they're kind of they're not trained, right? So I think as people, we have the tendency to want to help, and we tend to want to share our own stories, or we're going to share some advice, right? But I think sometimes the best advice or the best next steps actually come from yourself. And what I get out of therapy is that, my therapist asks me really, really good questions, and then I find my own answers, and then I am accountable to myself then and to her, right? So when I come up with my own answers, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, kind of reframe my thoughts this way. These are my next steps. And yeah, that's great. So I find that, for me, therapy has been really, really helpful on top of, like my gratitude practice and meditation every now and then. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a very important point.
I was just about to echo that as well. Probably the happiest, or I would say the most satisfied people I've met, they've constantly gone through therapy, and they're very balanced. It's always very admirable to sort of admit and kind of have that conversation. And initially, especially coming from like an Indian household, the T word or whatever, it was just considered like, oh man, you got to have like problems or something. And I think that has changed. And the older I've sort of gotten and become more mature, I realized, it's just some sort of fear of judgment, when essentially you're just stopping yourself from reaching to where you need to be to become better.
It's really, really cool. Yeah. But it's so true. It's so prevalent in the Asian context.
Yeah.
That mindset. Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you guys any last advice for somebody who might be struggling or who might not even know that there's so many avenues available, so many things that you can do to improve. Anything you'd like to share?
Wow. I think Googling will get you very so if you suspect that you have some kind of mental health challenge, Googling the issues will only get you more confused. I would highly suggest finding a mental health professional to speak with to get better perspective on what you're actually going through, and kind of like, it helps a lot to understand better from someone who knows better.
yeah, absolutely.
So, seek professional help.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I agree with that. I think based on my experience and speaking with people who also go through a similar experience, sometimes the mistake we make is when we experience a mental health struggle, we diagnose ourselves, and in reality, what's more valuable is to appreciate that you're struggling and then speak to someone who's equipped to decipher what it is you're going through. Because if you go in with the mindset of, if you go in with thinking, you're depressed, or, maybe you have some other mental disorder, then, so I think it's always important to not be too worried about the labels. Just appreciate you're going through something and it's real, it's legitimate. Speak to someone who's a professional and work with them to figure out what it is and what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that you deserve help as well. You deserve to get better.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Very, very good points. Well, it's been such a pleasure speaking with both of you. Would you like to share your contact information if one of our listeners wants to get in touch with you?
Okay. You can follow me on Instagram, Sabrina IOOI, or Calm Collective at Calm Collective Asia. So it's at Calm Collective Asia, or you can go to our website at calmcollective.asia to find our talks.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And Nick?
And for me, I'm Nicholas Patrick. You can find that across all social platforms, I guess.
Nice.
And then, we can just, if you have any questions or you want to talk, just connect. We can chat.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much again, guys. This was an amazing talk, and I hope to have you guys back on again when COVID is over and we can start tackling whatever is happening, or perhaps see you on this side of the world even.
Hopefully, yes.
That'd be ideal.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, guys. Speak soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Preet.
And this was Lifetime Value.